Welcome back to Founders in the Field, the show where we'll go behind the scenes of agency leaders, consultants, and creative founders to show you how they're building, scaling, and staying sane in the trenches. I'm your host, Stefan Bradley, and today's guest is Tim Mikhelashvili, CEO and co-founder of Amadea Pharma. How you doing, Tim?
Doing well, Stefan. Pleasure to be here with you on this podcast. Thanks for the invitation.
No problem. I appreciate you taking the time. Let's dive straight in. For people who don't know your story, take us right back to the start of your journey, what made you start your own business, and give us an overview of what your role looks like today at Amadea Pharma.
Absolutely, sure. I'm joining you from New York, and I started my career 21 years ago in pharma and biotech. Worked in 7 different companies, started in big pharma companies like AstraZeneca, Sanofi, then worked my way in more specialty, small startup kinds of environments in biopharma. And there were many different types of persistent issues, problems that I saw that were industry wide. That I wanted to learn from, wanted to offer to other leaders, executives. My journey has really been one of perseverance, because I wanted to learn from the successes, the failures, and I felt like it was my responsibility to also to represent the best character, honor, and to link my personal values, honor, across this spectrum of life and work, where I didn't see it being as divided as as many people considered. For example, right? For me, it was important to have impact on society, on my family, on my country where I was born, Republic of Georgia, and also the country where I live, the United States. Right. In addition to demonstrating good performance and and a commitment to the companies where I worked, the 7 companies that I did. Right. And I think that's also a very personal approach and a choice that I had made to challenge myself to maintain a particular character, a personal character across my career and professional journey, if you will. And so, in 2018, I had an experience that I went through with a startup that had best-in-class product. However, it wasn't operationalized. It wasn't executed well. And nevertheless, we transformed the launch of this product, re-energized the entire sales force. Even though I was not a leader of the sales team, I was leading a medical effort where it took me 2 years to convince the chief medical officer and chief executive officer to do a late-breaking proof of principle and head-to-head studies at a major conference. And I saw the impact that had on raising the awareness, and not only, but growing the shareholder value of the entire company and that launch. And so that experience is what really led me to start my company, Amadea Pharma, where we are building and we're seeking champions. We're helping life science organizations demonstrate their value more accurately and more objectively by eliminating a lot of the blind spots that are no longer acceptable. Because one of the 2 big lessons in my 21 years in this industry is that those companies that analyze performance in greatest detail were the ones that scaled and grew the most, like Salix, which became the largest GI company in the world where I had worked. And then the second big lesson was that the medical affairs role or the pharma role, even if you're a sales representative, for example, is not purely technical. It's also behavioral. And nevertheless, those were the blind spots that I saw a lot of leaders make, right, and just submit to, and because our internal operations and workflows that are often unseen, or different functions or departments particularly in the medical department, right? They were just as predictive of company success and product and launch success as were the technical performance. And so that's the blind spot that we are addressing by helping organizations create a strategy that is more accurate, more objective, as I mentioned, and that one that is going to lead to better forecasting, better prediction of risk, and ultimately revenue as well. So yeah, that's been a little bit of my journey. I've gone through a lot of successes and failures. I've been an entrepreneur. I was fired 3 times, among the 7 companies. And it was because I wanted to describe reality, and wanted to learn from the responsibility of previous mistakes, whether or not I had a leadership role with people that I thought I had relationships with. And in the beginning, it was difficult to take, right? I blamed myself, but I learned very quickly in each of those 3 occasions that the predictions came out to be very, accurate. I was the first one to have been fired or restructured, right? But those others that followed very quickly shared that same reality with me. And so I had an impatience, if you will, for progress, for success. That's in addition to the responsibility for character. So it's been quite a journey, throughout my professional career. Basically, I wanted to be a champion. I wanted to surround myself with champions. And now I'm building and seeking champions. I mean, growing up even early when I was a child, I was inspired by sports. And with my friends, we would act as if we would interview each other. And they would be, let's say, an Olympic champion, and I'd be interviewing. I used to commentate a lot and create games or competitions out of anything that we had on the street, or back when kids used to play in the streets, right? And look, nowadays I'm very grateful that my career has taken me where it has, where I've met a lot of leading scientists, engaged them in a lot of clinical and educational activities that demonstrated impact on patients. But also, I've met Olympic gold medalists as a result of my passion and forming Amadea Pharma, because Amadea Pharma sponsors an annual event called Medical Innovation Olympics. And I have Olympians on my board at Amadea Pharma, and every year we bring together elite athletes, leaders of longevity medicine companies, precision medicine companies in pharma, in order to share their insights and also to judge the competition among investors of a lot of startups that have been widely recognized. So that's where your vision and your self-fulfilling prophecy, if you stay true to it, takes you. And I think I'm the living example of a person who's an entrepreneur at heart, who wanted to become a consultant and feel like the startup or atmosphere, the company, the work it doesn't feel like work. Because when work is intuitive, becomes a part of you, you don't feel like you're working. You're an impact company. And that's how I define Amadea Pharma. An impact company that is not only responsible for the products that we offer, but also how we do business as well.
So it's obviously you started in more like the actual pharma or medical side of it, but kind of then drifted into the more marketing and sales, and actually being able to, and that's how you've transitioned to actually help the industry that you was once like in, if you know what I'm saying, and then you've sort of transitioned into sort of the marketing and sales to actually say we can help your pharma company get more exposure and scale effectively. Is that sort of a right accurate statement?
Yeah, you can. I've definitely crossed borders, if you will. I've been inspired. I've taken a lot of inspiration from sales leaders, from marketing leaders. Marketing is a very analytical field, as is medical affairs, where I've spent most of them, in my entire career, right? And so So absolutely, I consider my company to be an analytics and organizational change company where we we bridge the gap between performance and behaviors, between metrics and culture, in order to generate the kinds of views for leaders that drive results, real results, based on centralizing performance across many teams, which are often not seen. Because once you see performance differently, you will then also perform differently and perform. You change your daily habits. That's yeah.
I understand. You've almost sort of now you've transitioned over. You now actually serve. You've become your old job is your ICP. So you understand the pains, you understand the problems, and that's how you serve them because you already have been in that industry a long time. So you understand where they're trying to get to, what could be holding them back, and even has been detrimental in the past when you've been in these companies trying to tell them. You've actually
Right.
leveraged that to actually be able to serve them. So it's very, it's very clever how you've managed to sort of use things that have been, not hurt you, but detrimental to your job in the past to actually be like, no, there is a gap here, and I'm going to start my own business to be able to do that. And also, it's like entrepreneurship is not for the weak-hearted, is it? Do you know what I
No.
mean? And it's definitely not for the
Yeah.
weak-hearted. You said words like perseverance, and I feel like all entrepreneurs can understand that. I think any sane people would have give up a long time ago before their dreams actually come successful. And the thing with entrepreneurs is that we're not necessarily all that sane.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Definitely. So, Tim, what are the biggest trends that you're seeing inside the market today?
Inside the market, yeah. So it's very difficult to centralize a lot of data. We have lots of tools, AI, but this is one of the biggest problems: how to combine the performance data across many different departments, sales, within medical affairs, if you like, even probably in marketing, to see the bottom line, the causality of various initiatives or campaigns, and to access that data so that you can make decisions earlier and faster. Right? So I think centralization of performance data is one trend which remains a gap. In the pharma industry, we've done global benchmarking, the largest global benchmarking in medical affairs metrics at Amadea Pharma, together with Boston Consulting Group and Medical Affairs Professional Society, which is the largest global medical affairs nonprofit society. We surveyed 51 pharma companies, and we demonstrated that 70% of them do not analyze how their activities drive outcomes, patient outcomes or business outcomes. And 60%, about 59%, do not believe that the metrics drive their decisions, which renders them meaningless, right? So what's happening now, Stefan, is that the industry is moving away from activities to measuring patient outcomes now, okay? Which is encouraging, but it still leaves a gap. And I'll talk about that. I'll kind of address. I'll tell you how we're addressing these gaps and these trends. The third part that I'll highlight is that the most most of the organizations, enterprises, large companies, they say that, look, it doesn't matter who drives these outcomes. This is the general big pharma position, right? It doesn't matter who drives these outcomes. Is it sales? Is it marketing? Is it medical? As long as you get patients on the therapy, they're on optimal treatment, they have access to it, doesn't matter, right? So there is a debate of attribution of those outcomes. Why should we attribute those outcomes to medical, which is a non-revenue generating function? Okay. And I'll tell you why I disagree with that. And then the fourth trend that I will highlight in the industry, in medical affairs in particular, is that, again, when leaders, executives talk about performance and metrics, they usually talk about technical performance and they talk about externally facing performance, meaning just right how many sales, how many prescriptions, right, how many claims for your product, right? And usually it's customer related. So that's the customer experience. But they disregard the employee experience. They disregard the value of the behavioral part of performance, and that's something that that needs to be addressed, quantified, and distributed. The accountability needs to be distributed more evenly for your performance and for behaviors at 50% each, which is the only formula for sportsmanship, right? Because a lot of people say, okay, so sports, look, means more competition, but no, it also makes you more accountable, right? So that's one way that we are addressing that last gap, right? That Amadea Pharma is the company that helps these leaders improve their performance across the entire spectrum of customer and employee experience, right? Because you need to know your internal workflows, how long somebody spends internally in order to drive those results, right? In terms of the attribution, if you don't tell your employees, your individuals, why their daily work counts, they're not going to be motivated to do better. They're going to hide behind the entire enterprise's success. So you need to have a very smart combination of both team metrics but also individual metrics. And so when we built our Ancora decision assistant platform, which distills all of these principles, these seemingly abstract principles, into one platform, we designed it because based on the concept that people give their best when they're challenged, when they compete, and when that competition is explicit, when they know that their daily work counts, and when they're rewarded for their small wins across the sometimes long journey to outcomes in patients that many can relate to, I think, right? So that's why you need to attribute impact to medical, and also you need to justify the resources that you really need. How much money do you need to invest where? Because that's one big problem right now with the excitement and enthusiasm with AI. We're at an inflection point where a lot of the leaders, they're now betting on AI and they're investing a lot of money on it, but you need people who are courageous enough and bold enough to say where it works and to prove why it doesn't work in one use case and why it does, so that you can reallocate your resources. Right now, a lot of money is being spent, but a lot of it is also being wasted on technology. And then the other part was about the outcomes. Yes, the industry is moving away from activities to outcomes, but that leaves a gap of, if you don't know what activity leads to an outcome, how can you predictably forecast accurately? How can you reproduce those same world records, if you will, or those product formulary additions to the top PBM in your country? Or how can you avoid repeat failures, right? And that's why metrics is a moving target. KPIs. It constantly moves. And you have to describe the dynamic relationship between those activities and outcomes. So yes, I'm glad the industry is moving towards outcomes, but you need to describe that relationship, the causality. What causes? Being like a sports athlete or like a scientist who thinks, what did I achieved this outcome, but what did I do to drive that outcome? This personal record, where did I practice? How long did I spend on this practice? Break down that outcome into its individual parts. Start time. How did I react to the gun? Or what was my finish time? So just as analogies.
Inputs and outputs,
Yeah.
and that type of thing. So, and working out why you actually got to that result is very important. Of course, cause and effect is another way to put it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, Tim, what is working well, and where do you still feel slight friction inside your company?
So inside our company, well, from a marketing perspective, and I know a lot of marketing leaders are going to probably watch, our conversation. We've developed a good brand for what we stand for at Amadea Pharma. We've educated and expanded the performance analytics market. We've talked about why medical drives revenue, how it does that through that example that I've shown, that at the startup, that head-to-head study, right, drove $40 million of revenue in a $300 million market cap company immediately as that poster was being presented, and that was confirmed by our marketing, by the way, our marketing executive VP of marketing. And I saw other teams do that earlier in my career too, but they never got the recognition for that. So even though we did that, for example, I mentioned that I was restructured or fired in certain cases, but I also was promoted. But in that case, in my career, several times, right? But in that case, even though our team received emails and responses from the sales leaders saying, thank you for re-energizing our company, for giving us hope, right? And that to me was the most memorable milestone I've reached, far and above and beyond the the salary that I got, the bonuses, or the success of the companies. And it needs to be said here in this conversation. But even though we had done that in medical, not one person received a promotion there in medical affairs. So that tells you the problem is real, and it's industry wide, And we made a business case for it. And what better business case can you have than a marketing VP confirming that, right? So from a marketing perspective, I've gone ahead and with Amadea Pharma, we're known, even though we're a boutique, we're still a boutique company with tremendous leaders on the board. We're known for the Medical Innovation Olympics that we sponsor every year. We're known for the analytics work, for scratching beneath the surface, for addressing those underlying concerns that we all share, for the character. And so from a thought leadership perspective, we're there. And in fact, so we started to talk about quantifying medical impact when no one was, when people would cringe, when you would tell them that, look, medical drove revenue, because it's not, there's a firewall between sales and medical, right? But nowadays, resources are low. Competition has never been more present or more brutal in medical affairs or in the industry. So you need to be more competitive, and you need to take accountability for the business, even if you are a non-revenue generating function, in the industry. And now there are even medical affairs impact conferences that are taking place. So that's just to tell you the benchmarking, the thought leadership, and the market that we've built, this niche. In terms of the friction, of course, there's a lot. We're a boutique company still. The friction, I would say, is from the time, on decision making. So a lot, the need is validated through our customers. We've helped medical affairs, we've helped medical affairs define the problem and also address it. We've taken their input, a lot of leaders. The work that I've done, I cannot take full credit for myself, of course. If I hadn't been encouraged by a lot of the leaders that the problem exists and is validated, and other leaders even outside of pharma, I wouldn't be here talking to you, right? And I wouldn't be still promoting our first product, right? The Encore Decision Assistant. However, the decision making is still very slow because of the familiarity with a lot of other bigger players, right? And the just familiarity and the necessity for large platforms, which are not often most productive or valuable, which take a lot of time, which are essentially like a gym membership that you get. You may or may not use it. It's just a necessary. You have it. So what we're doing differently is that, in our platform, you have a gym membership that rewards you for improving your health and your team's health. That's how we're differentiating from a competition. But it's a slower road. The friction has also been to tell the industry, based on the trends and debates that I've discussed, that they need to measure things that are more difficult and challenging to measure. And so we're not a type of company that just gives the customer exactly what they're asking for now. We're thinking ahead, and we're telling them that you can use competition to your advantage. You can use transparency to your advantage. In fact, you will be forced to be more transparent about your performance, because there are more ways to measure your performance than ever before today. Right? So Modern leader knows that, and that's why we have a long-term outlook, and we're making most use of the time, but that's definitely a friction. The systems. Second part of the challenge is, look, you have to have contracting. You may have a great client, but then you have to work with the system in order to have the right contract in place, the right accounting. A lot of these small things that many, executives sometimes bypass when they're excited about their new product, for example, in niche. And so that's a challenge. And yeah, I would say just uh, the approach to the urgency and actionability among leaders today, because it's what we're uh, offering is a little bit, it's challenging, but it's needed today, right? But it's for people who want to be elite champions. They're the first ones that are going to pilot this, right? We have a Brazilian company right now, mid-sized company, 4,000 employees, with a 1-year case study with a top 20 pharma company, Sanofi, where we've demonstrated this, and there are other big pharma examples who measured KPIs that were shared by both sales and medical, and they got these teams together for 1 year, and they measured both the how and the why, meaning like the performance and the behaviors, and they weighed them each at 50% each, and they demonstrated how managers became subject matter experts. They improved performance, teamwork in Germany. Then that scaled to the United States in one big pharma company. I'm not gonna name it, but I've had uh, I've had their global VP as a guest on my podcast to talk about that case study. So yeah, it's a lot of competition, but we're there to address competition. I'm a competitive person. I have champions on my team. Friction is often familiarity with the old way of doing things, and it's even competitive. It's helpful for us to differentiate, and we're constantly we're challenging the status quo constantly, because we're addressing the also not just the executives' point of views, but they need the actual scientists out there to be to be inspired, and so if they want to perform better in this age of AI, they need to continuously inspire scientists they're not excited about operational efficiency, about accountability, transparency. These are great words that we're using now today, thanks to the spotlight that technology is putting on this today, right? Efficiency. But at the end of the day, we need to improve the efficiency of those people who are not excited about that. They're more excited about how they can save patient lives, how they can get lost in the data and forget about efficiency, spend a whole day researching why a new proof of principle mechanism may work in this new patient population, right? And so until you make efficiency or transparency exciting and meaningful, we're going to struggle with the same results that we're seeing today. Because unfortunately, a lot of people in healthcare professionals included, they have so many ways to communicate, and they have so much technology, but they're not happy. They're burned out. They're lonely, a lot of them, right? And the same is true in the industry as well. So that's where Amadea steps in, and we turn accountability into motivation with our platform. That's
Okay then, Tim. So could you walk me through how you currently bring in clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a chief commercial officer who has transformed Smart Labs, who's a biochemist himself, an athlete as well. He's led commercial teams, R&D, manufacturing, quality departments in the industry, and Graham Long, and through his network, through our thought leadership of presenting at expert panels, being present at all the major conferences in healthcare, in medtech, in medical affairs in particular, I would say. we're really doubling down on our relationships and our network, which have been built over decades. Okay, so we're our approach is very much through personal relationships that I appreciated much more later on in my career. Of course, the podcast. We have a podcast. The Medical Innovation Olympics is another draw where we're demonstrating for 4 years in a row now that when you provide transparent feedback on performance among judges, the performance of our competitors that have participated in the Medical Innovation Olympics has increased significantly and consistently every time, from round 1 to round 2 to semifinals to finals. And that demonstrates again this continuous quality improvement engine, this self-fulfilling prophecy that, look, I'm going to improve. I'm going to, if I take this approach. And that's why competition and transparency works. And that's what we're showing. So that's one avenue. Medical Innovation Olympics, the podcast called All Out Coach, where I invite a lot of guests and leaders in pharma and beyond other industries. We have our website, Amadea Pharma, where we have various different campaigns, our blog. We've done New Ways of Working in Medical Affairs series of webinars. So we try different types of channels, both in person, both digital, and also we're also we're working with nonprofit organizations together, like Medical Affairs Professional Society, on the thought leadership part of it. Of course, a lot of our efficiency in marketing can be improved, but that also comes at the cost of time and a lot of resources.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a company that I have bootstrapped, that I finance myself. It's a private company right now, and we have not formally started to look for funding, but which we are beginning this summer.
So it sounds like it's content, networking, and exposure. Sort of on going to different events and being on the boards of different things to actually get you to become like a household name that people know in the pharma industry.
Yeah.
Cool. Tim, my last couple of questions are: where do you want to be in terms of business in the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, it's in the next 12 to 18 months. We are looking to demonstrate evidence again with clients, with pilots. So I'm very much laser focused on generating about 10 clients in this period, building out our team. I currently have a fractional CTO and a fractional chief commercial officer. We hope to expand our team to have permanent roles in both those positions. We're looking for a chief financial officer as well, at least fractional, and we want to secure seed funding and intrigue the right investors who have forward-looking kind of long-term outlook on where the industry is going, because right now Amadea Pharma is providing something that's very timely, but also paradoxically very timeless, because it positions leaders to be more competitive in any atmosphere, throughout any uncertainty, right? Because you need a continuous quality improvement engine. Without it, you don't have excellence, right? And sometimes challenges, COVID, the current macroeconomic political climate, they usually give rise to champions as well, And so that's what we want to generate. We want to build a new generation of champions and keep doing that.
Tim, obviously talking about taking on like 10 more clients and having to hire, fractional positions into permanent positions. Do you think AI will have an impact on how you operationally, how you can implement AI to get more bandwidth without adding loads and loads more roles. Being able to be more operational efficient to while you scale up.
Yeah, so that's a very good question, practical question, a sensitive one as well. Yeah, so and I forgot to mention it actually because I've already been using it, of course. I'm not going to single myself out for content, for blogs, for and I'm changing my workflows all the time, almost so often that I don't know how productive I am, right? But you got to experiment, right? And so certainly, we're certainly already doing that, and we want to do that even more. Our demo video, for example, was augmented by AI, and I'm very actually proud of that process because it was a learning process for me. But it's one that I use a lot right now without the budgets of hiring a AV production team and videographers, for example. So content and yeah, so they're definitely even contracting,
Mm.
you know, and there's so
Proposal
many use
also.
cases. Oh yeah, proposals and everything. Yeah, so we're definitely going to be utilizing that as well. Yeah, but I mean, this is a company that you know wants to uh, cut down the cycle from ideas to action. You know, and, action abilities, both internally and for our customers. So yeah, we'll definitely be doing that. I've also had some cases where I've used it for lead prospecting where I was not very productive, where where the success metrics were not previously communicated and were not aligned. As a result, what this AI automated, AI defined as success was not success for us. So you got to be critical in how you implement AI. So I I'm learning, still learning.
So, Tim, my last question is, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in your business, what would it be?
Yeah, so there is a strong team of supporters that I'm absolutely proud of at Amadea Pharma, and I want to go back to that point. If I had a magic wand, those same people who I'm inspired by, who are executives in commercial, in R&D, in medical affairs, who are champions, Olympic champions, right? Who are management consulting experts, enterprise software experts, right? These same people that for the last, I would say, 5 years or so, right, even longer, have continued to support me, but they remain as a board of advisors. If I had a magic wand, I would probably have this team of 10 or 15 people work with me full time, and basically take this vision that Amadea has, right, to its destination together in any capacity. So that's really my number one item on my wish list
I love that answer every
because I
time I
feel
ask
like
it.
I'm responsible to
Mm.
them
Yeah.
tremendously over the
It,
last years for the time that they've provided, for what they volunteered, and for what they've done. So and this is also a way for me to express my gratitude to them.
Yeah, no, definitely, it's a way of giving back. Definitely, and I love that answer, Tim, because I ask that question, as part of all my questions every time, and I get a completely different answer every
Yeah.
single time, going from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum. So I really enjoyed that answer, definitely, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on. I've loved this conversation. Taught me a lot as well about the pharma industry and what you do at Amadea Pharma. Where Amadea Pharma, sorry, where can my viewers and listeners reach out to you if they're looking to work with you?
All right. So I have quite a long last name, but I'm used to many different pronunciations of it. In fact, it became a nickname at one of my companies. So LinkedIn, I would say LinkedIn, search Amadea Pharma, Tim Mikhelashvili, or just go to the Amadea Pharma website. We'll always have lots of news, events, you can leave me a message there as well. Amadea Pharma, Amedea Pharma, PHARMA.com.
Well, there you have
Thanks
it, folks.
very much for your invitation, by the way, Stefan.
Oh, no
Thank
problem, Tim. No problem. Well, there you have it, folks. That's where you need to reach Tim on LinkedIn. And everybody, please, who's watching, who's watched, please like, comment, subscribe, send to a friend, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you.